So chapter 6 is where we're at, and we are breaking this up into two parts. Part being that we have here is the of the children, and then we're going to break into the second part, which will be next week, of the armor of God. So what I did was I just broke everything up to where it's children tonight, armor of God all next week, so we get the nice meat and potatoes of everything of the armor of God. Okay, so here we are. We are in Ephesians 6. If you go to the next slide, we have a picture here of a nice-looking woman with her parents in the background. Maybe some of you can relate to that, having a child at that age and going through some of that. So what I did was I went online and I looked to see what are the top 10 complaints of a parent that they have for a child. Now, it's not teenager right now. This is child. So let me go down the list here of what it says. Number 10, parents complain because kids who push, hit, throw, kick, and bite. Number 9, kids who say things like stupid, shut up, idiot, dummy, or which one I used a lot when I was a kid was butthead. Number 8, kids who cannot, will not, and do not cooperate. Number 7 is kids who ignore their parents. 6, kids who noodle, stall, get distracted, and act like they don't have to be somewhere important. Number 5 is kids who think they no longer need naps. Number 4 is kids who want to stay in the PJs all day and wear their ballet costume to school for a week, or refuse to wash their favorite pair of pants, ever. Number 3, kids who refuse to go along with your plans and try and keep you trapped at home all day long. And number 2, kids who yell, manhandle, annoy, bother, or wake up the new baby. And last, number 1, is kids who refuse to eat what we put in front of them, sleep when they want to sleep, or potty train when they are ready for them to be done with diapering. Those are the top 10 for kids. Let's look at what it says for teenagers now, because I also Googled that as well. Number 10, teenagers nowadays are very rude. They do not respect people of older age. You just cannot tell them something without hearing rude words in return. They want us to respect their opinion, but they do not express something valuable and do not do anything for what they can be respected. Number 2, teenagers do not respect opinions of adults. We are older and we know better in many aspects. They not only do not respect, but they do not want to listen and try to understand. Number 3, the generation wears very strange clothes. Especially in summer, one can walk in the street and think he is on the beach. Girls often do not wear anything at all. Tight tops, stomachs not covered, very short skirts, and it's not clothes, and it's not decent. Number 4, teenagers listen to crazy music. They listen to it very loud. This part cracks me up. They do not listen to serious classical music at all. Number 5, teenagers drink a lot nowadays. Our generation did not drink at all while we were at school, and now we can see many drunken teenagers. Number 6, teenagers are very violent today. Criminal situation has become worse because of juvenile delinquency. It is very risky to walk in the streets in the dark time of the day. Teenagers watch a lot of violent films, which teach them to be violent too. Number 7, teenagers want to live a good life, but they do not want to work at all. Number 8, they only demand from their parents more and more when they grow older. They want fashionable clothes, expensive cars, computers, and many other things. They do not understand how money is earned and how difficult it is to realize all these needs, especially if there is not a father in the family. Number 9 is teenagers do not have desire or curiosity for learning. Very few read books nowadays. They prefer watching bad films or play computer games. And number 10, most of teenagers swear. It's very unpleasant. You hear swearing of teenagers everywhere, in the streets, transport, shops. What is surprising is that many girls swear too, or they let their friends do so. So those are the top 10. So DJ's ad is kids nowadays, Generation X, eats Tide Pods for YouTube likes. And the new fad is jumping out of a moving car and dancing next to it while your car is either running on its own or you have a friend filming it while it's playing the new song by Drake. Now, if you guys don't know which one that is yet, you can actually go on YouTube and type in dancing next to a car, and you'll see these people, these teenagers, and unhappily probably people a little bit younger than me, they're jumping out of their car while their car is moving like 5 miles an hour. They play the song, and they're actually dancing or running or doing whatever they have to do to move because they want to be filmed and put it onto their Instagram or Facebook or YouTube to get the likes. So that's DJ's ad. So why am I saying all this? Because that's the way our kids are nowadays. Kids are crazy. They are. They have no morals anymore. And it's very rare to find a kid that loves God and wants to be a part of a church. So let's see what it says in Ephesians 1 through 3. It says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy a long life." And I'm just going to read verse 4 too. It says, "Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and the instruction of the Lord." So this commandment is simple. It means children are to obey their parents. This not only means that children have the responsibility to obey, but parents have the responsibility to reach children's obedience. Teach them, which is one of the most important jobs as a parent. Soon Kira and I will find out. We obviously do not need to teach our children how to obey because they have each inherited and has an inclination of that. We just have to remind them and show them how to obey. But on the other hand, too, they have the sin that we inherited from Adam as well. So it's very natural to disobey your parents or to not do what your parent is expecting of you. And when the parent does teach his child this with obedience, the child gets to grow, not only in maturity, but that's how they learn to grow in God. Even when they don't understand what they might not be, how they grow and obey while they're in a Christian household, they obey their parents. They're also learning that that's what God wants us to do, because when we obey our parents, we're obeying God as well. So that brings me up to a little illustration. Not a little illustration, actually a little story. I kind of have a few little stories here, and I won't tell you about the lawnmower, and I won't tell you about how I've done bad things. But this one is kind of borderline. So let me set the stage for you. So growing up, my mom would always pick us up from school because she would be off in time to grab us. So we would get out of school, we'd go to mom's car, get in mom's car, and go home. Well, our family friends, their kids needed help getting home too as well. So they would take us in the morning, mom would take us home. So the boy that was my age, him and I would always fight for the front seat because we wanted to be in the front and sit next to the window because that was cool, because you got to hang your window out and be like the cool kid leaving school. So it was always a battle who got to the car first between him and I. And it always happened, for some reason, he would always get out early and he would beat me. And I didn't like it. I was very competitive as a young kid, and I never liked losing. So one day, we get to the car, he beats me there, and my mom tells me, oh, well, you're in the front seat, in the middle. And I'm like, well, I'm not sitting in the middle. And she goes, yes, you are. And I go, no, I'm not. And I go, you can't tell me what to do. So, what do? I don't sit there and just take it and leave. I decide, well, I'm going to jump out of the car while Mom's pulling away, and I'm going to run all the way over to the bus stop to where you get on to the bus, and I'm going to take the bus home because I'm not going to be sitting next to no kid, and I'm going to be sitting by the window. So I hop out of the car, and I book it over to the bus stop, and I start panicking because I don't know which bus is mine, where I'm supposed to be going, because I never rode home on the bus. So I stop at this bus. I go, hey, does this bus go over here? And he goes, no. He goes, that's the second one behind me. So I'm like, okay. So I run over and I go, hey, does this bus go over here by my house? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, get in. And I'm like, you got it. So I get in and I get next to my window. And I'm like, okay, here we go. This is good. So meanwhile, Mom was upset and trying to figure out what to do, how she was going to get me back. So we leave and we're going and I'm talking to friends, having a good old time. Well, Mom's following us behind the bus after every single bus stop. Every single bus stop. We stop, I turn around, and I see the red car that she was in. I was like, oh no. We go to the next bus stop. What happens? Lo and behold, there she is. So this goes on probably 15, 20 minutes because that's how long it took for us to get home and to get through every bus stop. So we get back, and I'm there at the bus stop, and there Mom is outside the car, arms folded, and sitting there waiting for me with, the look on the face of like, you're donezo, buddy. So I get into the car. She already dropped off the kids, and my sister's in the back seat. She's got a big old grin because she knows I'm so toast. So I get in the front seat like it's no big deal. I'm like, hey, Mom. And she goes, really? Really? And I'm like, I just wanted to, ride home in the front seat next to the window. She goes, yeah, we'll see what your father says about that. Something about your father says something about that. Always, still makes you kind of cringe. So I get home, and I don't know how, but we pull up, and we live in a cul-de-sac, so we wrap around the cul-de-sac to the house, and there's Dad already outside the front door, pointing at me like this, like, you're donezo, buddy. And I'm sitting there going, this ain't good. Get in the house, tell Pops what I did. Mom's upset. Next thing you know, Pops had a paddle, and I got that little whooping about 3 or 4 times. Long story brought here is I learned to obey my parents after that, not get in that car, or get in that car whether I liked it or not. Amen? That window was not important whatsoever. Whatsoever. But let's look at what it says about even taking a little further about obey. So what does the 5th commandment say? The 5th commandment says, honor your mother and your father. See, it's the commandment of God. It's a commandment with promise, with divine blessing attached to it. It is a commandment positioned in place of special honor and significance. It's a commandment pertaining to the whole life of every human being. It's a commandment with application to the home, church, and workplace, a commandment that provides stable foundation to all society. Yet it's the commandment that is sorely neglected today. It may be overstating the case to call it the commandment we forget or that we forgot. And it's the 5th of God's 10 greatest commandments to humanity, to honor your father and your mother. So let's look what it says in Deuteronomy 5:16. It says, honor your father and your mother, as the Lord your God has commanded you so. so that you may live long, and that it may go well with you in the land the Lord your God has given to you. And I don't know about you, but as I talked about last week, that I learned once about getting your mouth washed out with soap. But for some reason, you always get that little courage to kind of pop off to mom and dad because you think you're better. So we got past that stage of washing your mouth out with soap, so I didn't have to worry about that anymore because I knew better to do that. But sometimes when I'd get mouthy, Pops would always say, "What's that scripture, son?" And I go, "There's a lot of them, Dad. I don't know which one you're talking about." And he always throw it right there. He goes, "What are you supposed to do?" And I go, "Love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind?" He goes, "No." He goes, "You know it." I go, "Honor your mother and your father?" And he goes, "Yeah, you're not doing that." I'm like, "Oh, man. Okay." And he goes, "That's your warning." "Okay, Dad." So every time I would get mouthy, Pops would always say, "What's that commandment?" I'd be, "You got it, Pop. Sorry I say anything." So I learned as well pretty quickly about that commandment. My sister, on the other hand, we won't talk about her. She's not here, so I can't really throw her under the bus. I mean, I can, but. So let's look at 3 ways to know how to obey this commandment. Number 1 is, we are all children. Even now we are. It's the most basic biology. Every human being in the offspring has a parent, has a mother and a father. Some of us only known our parents or have only known adoptive parents. Some even grow up apart from parents in foster care. And some of us have outlived our parents. Regardless, the 5th commandment applies to each of us for the simplest reasons. We are all children. So there is no human being outside of pure view because there is no parentless person. So when we talk about the first verse, when Paul's saying, "Children, obey your parents," that goes for all of us. It's not just us being as little kids. It's even being us as adults around our parents. And of course, we also know that God's commandments are to be taken both literally and principally. The commandments stipulations go beyond the simplest relationship of children to parents. And it extends to all positions of authority and submission. The right ordering of family, of government, of church, of civil government, it all depends on this commandment. It's so universal that we are all children and we're all under authority. And sometimes we all just need to hear that. Number 2 is the commandment comes with a promise. And our second reason for that is this commandment comes with a promise is it's wise and it's good to obey the commandment so we can enjoy the promised blessings. We're supposed to honor our father and our mother. And with that, when we honor our father and our mother, God promises us a long life and a good life to those who obey this command. It pleases God when we obey, so naturally, he dispenses his blessings to us. So we can explore the nature of these blessings. And number 3 is God gives the commandment a place of special honor. Now that we add this, God gives a place of special honor. Believers have long divided the 10 commandments into two tables. The first group explains our duty toward God, and the second explains our duty towards all fellow men. The commandment falls squarely between the two, and in the way it reminds us that our parents have a unique role in our lives. Our parents are good divine representatives to us, so that when we honor and obey our parents, as we said earlier, when we honor and obey our parents, we also obey God. There is no obedience or love to God without obedience and love towards our parents. If we remove this commandment, we have undermined all 10 of them. We have fallen into serious and dangerous disobedience if we do that. And we are children, and we ought to pursue God's blessings, and we need to give prominence to God's prominent command. For these reasons and many others, we can no longer ignore the forgotten commandment. So if we go to our next slide, we have ways of how we're going to honor our parents. Number one is we forgive them. See, perhaps the most important thing we can do is forgiving them is the fact that not all of our parents are perfect. All parents have fallen short of children's expectations, and in all likelihood, even their own expectations. Our parents have sinned against us. They have made us unwise. They have made unwise decisions. They had unrealistic expectations that they said and have done things and left us deeply wounded at times. But however, we shouldn't hold that against them because it's a learning process. We're not always going to be the best parent, and that's why we should forgive one another as God would forgive us. We're supposed to grow with love together. So we ask that children forgive their parents as parents forgive their children as well. I can think of a time, if you were here last Sunday with Pastor Wally, he was talking about how his son was at the beach, and he was excited that his son got pummeled by a wave. If you heard that, he was up against the rocks, and he kept getting pummeled, and he was gone, and then he was rolling down. Well, right away, it reminded me of a deep, deep wound that I have. And that's with my father taking me to the beach and trying to show me how to boogie board. Because back in his day, he was a surfer. And that was a long time ago, because back then it was the booty shorts that were in style, as a surfer. So that was many, many moons ago. However, I have the similar situation. We go out in the water. I'm trusting Dad that he's got me because he's done this before. And so he goes, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to push you into a wave, and you're just going to ride it all the way in. And I go, yeah, okay, Dad, I got this. And he goes, you got this? I'm like, I got it. So here comes the wave. He's got me. He goes, lay on your boogie board. So I'm laying there, and I'm like ready to go. And he goes, no, not this one. This one's too little. You need a bigger one. So I'm like, oh, no. So he gets me, and there goes the swell. And it's coming up, and he goes, here you go. And he gets me, and I get sucked up, right up to the top. And I'm looking down going, this is not going to be good. So I torpedo right off the top, straight into the water, straight down, hit my face, and roll all the way in with the wave. And so I get to the shore, and I'm out of breath, and I'm like sitting there disoriented, like, what's going on? And I was like, oh man, I go, that was not fun. And Dad's out there like, come back, let's do this again. No. I go right back to the towel, and I go, I need a timeout. But see, for me, that cut me deep, because I didn't trust the waves after that, and nor did I ever become a professional surfer. Let's move on. Number 2 is speak well to them. Another way we can honor our parents is to speak well, to refuse to speak evil of them. And the sad part is, we hear this a lot with teenagers, with kids that badmouth their parents, that their parent didn't let them do this, or they didn't let them go out with their friends, so their parent has a nice choice of words. I just refrained myself from saying for an example. However, they say bad things towards their parents, and they downgrade them to where they're not showing that love of Christ of what kids are supposed to have towards their parents and obey. And so what they do is they think little of their parents. And yet the Bible warns us that we owe honor and respect to all authorities God has placed over us. And that's what our parents are. They're over us, and when we honor them, we show honor to God. So we need to speak well to our parents. We need to speak to them while they are alive. And what I mean by that is you might have said something to where it wasn't nice or it was nasty to your parent, but now they're not here to ask them for forgiveness. So you have to live with that pain in your heart. But also too, we're not guaranteed till tomorrow. So why treat a loved one without respect or without love, because tomorrow they couldn't be there. And you always hear about that too. You know, if I could have just said one more thing to my parents or my parent before they passed on, but we don't get that time back. So we always remember to speak well to them. Number 3 is give credit. Because parents impact their children, kids should tell them, hey mom, hey dad, thanks for being great. Thanks for taking me here. Thanks for doing this for me. Because parents need that reinforcement too, not only as kids need it, but mom and dad needs to know they're doing well also. So it's kind of like an esteem booster. When they know that they're doing well, and you feel they're doing well, you feel that love that God has given you. And number 4 is seek their wisdom. This one is great. Because sometimes you always find it easier as you grow up to, I'm going to do things my way. Mom and dad don't know what they're talking about. I know what I'm doing, or I know what I'm talking about. But when we do seek their wisdom and lean on them for understanding and seek input, it's usually the right thing, isn't it? Mostly all the time. I mean, granted, sometimes, mom or pops could be off, but that seems like it's a rare occasion because mom and dad pretty much know what's going on. And you do that by getting their wisdom. And number 4 is support them. You support your family, and your parents support you. So why not support each other? Because our parents raised us to be strong and free. And they care for us. So if they care for us, why can't we care for them and take care of them as well as they take care of us? And number 6 is provide for them. Obviously, we can't provide for them financially or anything like that when we're young kids. But it's kind of funny how the times turn. As you get older, your parents rely more on you, and they need that time from you or that help from you to help take care of them. In a lot of families, you don't see that too much because a lot of families are broken and they don't have Christ. A good example of family like that takes care of each other is, if you ever seen like an Asian family, the kids always take care of their parents. The families always live together and take care of one another. And then when the kids are old enough, it seems like the parents rely on the kids. Kind of think there for a second. But you see that a lot in many Asian families like that. You'll see a whole family live together. And it's uplifting because their family takes care of their family. Kids take care of their family. So let's see what it says in Ephesians 6:5. And we'll just read this out till number 9 here. Because I'm going to cut it early tonight. We're not going to get into the armor of God. We're going to save that for next week so we don't get any broken information there. We'll have it all together. So it says, slaves, obey your earthly masters with respect and fear, and with sincerity of heart, just as you would obey Christ. Obey them not only to win their favor when their eyes is on you, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. Serve wholeheartedly, as if you were serving the Lord, not people, because you know that the Lord will reward each one of you for whatever good they do, whether they are slave or free. And masters, treat your slaves in the same way. Do not threaten them, since you know that He is who is both their masters and yours is in heaven. and there's no favoritism with them. So if we go back to verse 6 where it says, obey them, not only to win their favor when their eye is on you, but as slaves of Christ, doing the will of God from your heart. This means don't be a looky-loo while you're at work, knowing where your boss is all the time so you can kind of slack off and not give your whole 110% to your employer, of knowing where he's at, and then once he comes back or he comes outside or wherever you're at, then all of a sudden you're looking like you're working hard, that you're giving him 110% when wholeheartedly you know you're not. That's what Paul's trying to say here, is to do honest work and do the work like you're doing it for God, not for man, but for God. Number 7 says, serve wholeheartedly as if you were serving the Lord, not people. Again, that's what I just said. And number 8 is, because you know that the Lord will reward each one of you for whatever good they do, whether they are slave or free. Did you know that during this time, the slaves would go to church with their masters? And when they did that, as soon as they got into church, there was no slave or master. They were all just a regular free person under God. And the cool part, too, is that the slaves would actually even be teachers and would teach their masters or other people about God. But as soon as they walked out that door, it went back to the rules of they were the slave of that master. And as it goes on, that the masters are supposed to treat their slaves with respect. Don't bad-mouth them. Don't kick them down in the dirt. Don't treat them bad because they're a slave. But you're supposed to treat them as a good person and show them the love that God shows for them. So to sum up this, what we just talked about tonight, like I said, I don't want to get into the armor of God because that's a big chunk. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page there. We need to honor that first commandment, which is honor your mother and your father. Whether you're young, you're old, but it's to love on one another. Love your parents, because when you love your parents, you show that you obey God as well. Amen? Amen.